Do you believe that you can heal yourself? Too often we give our power away to something outside of ourselves, and rarely, if ever, trust and tap into our innate healing power and intuition. Everyone has this capability to heal in ways we never thought possible. It's your sovereign right to claim and have true health and lasting wellness. Now, here is the host of the Dr. Dolores Show, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in our amazing universe. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And our show today is about that resistance, the resistance that we all seem to have in our life. Sometimes we just are dug in with our heels and don't want to make changes, or we are just so fed up with everything in this our world that we just want to have a temper tantrum and just like cross your arms and just stomp your feet. So that's the resistance that I'm talking about because, you know, for many of us, it's a coping mechanism. It's almost as if we're at the end point of not wanting to do anything else, and we've actually reached the end of our tether, so to say, that enough is enough, and we're just dug in. You know, for many of us, I'm going to speak about myself in particular, when we have had numerous things happen in our lives where you're just wondering, haven't I learned the lesson yet? It's like, why is this still happening? Especially if there's like repeating patterns or like what I call themes and variations of a different sort. It's very uncomfortable, and it seems like this is the only way that we have control in our lives, is to really make a stand for ourselves and just dig our heels in and be really resistant. But I'm going to offer you today some other possibilities to look at resistance from, different perspectives. Resistance is a defense mechanism, really. It's about trying to avoid something uncomfortable. Maybe it's a difficult emotion or a situation. I think there's a component of the fear of the unknown. It's like, change, especially if it's around changes and stuff like that, because let's face it, in our world today, change is the norm. And change is necessary because when we are not willing to change, this is where we kind of get left behind and get stuck in another time and place. Things are happening rapidly in our society. And when we have that uncertainty and the fear of the unknown, it kind of rattles us to the core sometimes. And all these old beliefs and patterns are coming up to the surface that, maybe they were unconscious and they're moving into consciousness, and now we get to see them and work with them and play with them a little bit. And, it's about our comfort zone too. We resist stepping outside of our comfort zone. And when we do that, sometimes we miss opportunities. So this is, some of the pros and cons of understanding resistance. Now, defiance, I think defiance is a real interesting thing. And I feel that sometimes defiance is almost like really, I see this picture in my mind of this little kid having a temper tantrum and just stamping their feet and just digging in their heels that they refuse to do something versus being resistant. So when you get to be, as you age and everything that you've experienced in your life, you're the sum total of every experience you've ever had. So sometimes, you reach the point that enough is enough, and I don't want to be doing this anymore. So you just kind of stomp your feet and have a temper tantrum, when you're in your 50s, 60s, and maybe even 70s. So, the resistance thing it's an opportunity for you to look deeper within yourself as to why you're so resistant about what you're experiencing. So that's decoding resistance. When we decode resistance, we're identifying the triggers, like what situations or emotions that seem to bring out your resistance. For many people, it could be an old pattern. And it's like you're repeating this pattern, and it's just like, enough already. It's time for me to be done with this. When we are decoding our resistance, it's about challenging your beliefs, examining your beliefs or assumptions that might be fueling your resistance. Are they really accurate or helpful, or are they really hindering you and making things worse? Practicing mindfulness is really a great gateway in order to get us into becoming more aware. It's a stepping stone into gaining self-awareness. And when you're more aware of your thoughts and feelings, you can observe whatever's going on with you without judgment or criticizing it. And, that goes hand in hand with having some self-compassion for yourself, because we are really tough on ourselves. We have a tendency to judge and criticize ourselves to ad nauseum. And sometimes it's not in our best interest to do that. And of course, sometimes we just might need some additional support or help, and always looking for people who could assist you with that. Maybe a trusted friend can provide some valuable insights, or maybe even going to a therapist or a counselor, or seeking out somebody like myself who has some insight and could assist you with that. When we overcome our resistance, this is when magical things start happening. And how do we overcome resistance? You ask, maybe. It's like you have to start with baby steps. First of all, being aware that you're in resistance is huge. When you are unaware and you're like defiant, and that's the extreme end of the continuum of resistance, that's something to be aware of, because you're more in a react mode versus a observing and contemplative mode where you would be with mindfulness. Positive affirmations, people ask about that, and it's just like you could say a lot of affirmations, and sometimes they'll work and sometimes they won't. What is important is that when we're able to change our dialogue with ourselves with something more positive, it starts the process where we're able to realign our body, mind, and spirit within ourselves. It's really important to celebrate your milestone and your successes, no matter how small they are, and just to reinforce your positive behaviors. I think what is really challenging for some people is we are so impatient, and sometimes we're extremely impatient with ourselves. I feel that we have more patience with a stranger than we do with ourselves. When you're able to give yourselves that atta-girl and atta-boy, and just the love and appreciation that you would extend to somebody outside of yourself, sometimes a complete stranger, to ourselves, this is where we are going to be laying the foundational piece of what's really, really important for us as a human being. Some of the important things to remember, that a lot of the things around resistance and defiance and unraveling this is there's a lot of unconscious stuff that happens. We talk about the ego and the psyche and the need for the id and the ego, but I'm not going to even go there because we all know that Freud and everybody else discussed this. I feel that sometimes what happens is this. On an unconscious level, we have so much stuff that has happened throughout our lives that we just have had enough. We've kind of hit the wall, and there's no other place for all that stuffness to go. So it has to go someplace. It's energy. When this energy is just maxed out into a compartment, it kind of bursts at the seams. It has to go someplace. So when you're able to look at the unconsciousness, or I call Pandora's box, because it's everything that we are, Pandora's box, and sometimes Pandora's box lid needs to open up so all that energy comes out so that we can make room and transmute and transcend and transform those thoughts, beliefs, or whatever they are, because they're energy. They just need to be experienced in a different modality, healed, if you want to call that, transformed, transmuted, transcended, so they are no longer affecting you. They come to the neutrality so they're able to be as they are without a charge. Some of the things that occur are denial, when we create a lot of resistance. And what denial is the refusing to acknowledge a painful or uncomfortable reality. We've all had that stuff where sometimes it's just like we experience something that's, not pleasant. And the last thing we want to do is not experience it. So we kind of refuse to go there. The energy is still there, yet we are not allowing ourselves to experience that. It's too painful. Another coping mechanism is projection. And what happens when people project on to other people, it's very telling about what's going on with the projector's life, okay? Sometimes they will spew out things and attack somebody else or project what they're feeling onto somebody else. And it's not that other person's reality, but the projector is trying to make it the other person's reality. So it's very telling when somebody is projecting, because you could tell what is actually going on with a person. And it's almost similar to the analogy of a pressure cooker. We've all had that experience. Of course, now we have Instapot, still a pressure cooker. But the point is that in a pressure cooker, everything builds up, builds up, builds up. It's energy. And there's a release valve on the top of the pressure cooker that releases that energy. So when a person is projecting, usually all of their stuff is unconscious and it's percolating and pressurizing within them, and they just feel the need to blow off steam, so they'll project onto somebody else so that that pressure valve opens up so they feel better, because they just dumped all that energy onto somebody else and not taking any accountability for that. So that's an interesting visual of projection, and hopefully that'll help some of your listeners as to what that's all about. And it's really not about you at all. It's like people are displacing their feelings about themselves onto somebody else. So just be mindful of that it's not yours, and it's very telling about the other person. Rationalization is another thing that people are aware of and stuff like that. And it's justifying your actions or beliefs with logical explanations. So that makes no sense, but it's to mask the underlying emotions that are contributing to that. So many of us have a tendency to do that. And sometimes displacing is another thing, and it's directing negative emotions towards a less threatening target. So there's a lot of games that we play, and sometimes you could go into regression and you're acting more childlike. So, I gave you a bunch of stuff to think about, like the defense mechanisms that can manifest as resistance. We've all had probably some themes and variations, or we've been at the receiving end of some of that as well. So I'm getting ready to go on my first break, so I'm hoping that you enjoyed this episode. And you're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we're talking about decoding resistance today on the Dr. Dolores Show. So stay tuned, and when we come back from break, we'll share some more.
Do you trust your instincts? Many of us don't. Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody, and you're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network. And I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we've been talking about decoding resistance today, and I think everybody has resistance in their life. And I kind of look at it as a continuum. You either have very little or you have a lot. And before break, we were talking about some of the, I would say, behaviors of resistance. Like sometimes it's procrastination, sometimes it's projection, sometimes it's not wanting to deal with stuff. So we are in denial. We talked a little bit about this, but on this segment, I'd like to talk more about where resistance could be rooted in. And so, like we're saying, a lot of it's conscious and a lot of it's unconscious. I'd say most of it's unconscious. And it's the unconscious drives that we don't have the awareness of that actually create some of those things in our lives or patterns where you're like, what's going on here? It's like, what's happening underneath the surface and what I'm experiencing are not the things that I really want. So this is something to ponder about and also to explore and dig deeper within ourselves. So some of the psychological factors are the fear of the unknown. We talk a lot about change, and there's so much uncertainty right now. And for many of us, change ruins the stability that we have, the illusion of stability that we've created in our lives. Okay? We have everything packaged within ourselves in nice little boxes on the shelf. And God forbid, if something on the external changes that, it ruffles all the packages and we have to start all over. So if there's a control aspect of that we want to control things and make things the same all the time. And unfortunately, that's an illusion that we have control and everything's going to stay the same all the time. I want to back up. The illusion is we have control. We don't have control over a lot of situations. It's more of the control factor is, well, how we choose to deal with things. That's where we have the control, basically. A lot of times people think about the fear of failure, and, you know, if they have things in nice little packaged boxes, that everything's going to be perfect and they're able to function moment to moment with themselves, and the external conditions, they're trying to control and manipulate them so they fit into your their reality. So the fear of failure is one thing, could lead to resistance, because the familiar is more comfortable than the unfamiliar. Perfectionist, you know, for those people out there who are perfectionisms and into being perfect, newsflash, recovering perfectionist here. We usually have our high standards. You know, we set such high standards for ourselves that we create pressure and overwhelm. And this could lead to resistance as a way to avoid the perceived stress. What that means is that when everything has to be perfect, we kind of paralyze ourselves. Sometimes we get to the point that we decide not to do something because it has to look a certain way, or we are afraid to do something different because it's not our ideal of what perfect or our definition of perfect is. The other thing that it creates too is procrastination, because we don't want to make a choice. And, you know, it's a way of, you know, because sometimes if we make a choice, maybe we're going to have to expose our emotions that we want to keep near and dear to our heart, and that unconscious stuff that's happening within ourselves. So the procrastination is a defense mechanism about wanting to keep things at bay and to keep all the unconscious stuff and the unconscious games kind of going. You know, emotionally, sometimes our comfort zone, you know, we resist kind of stepping out of our comfort zone because we feel safer and we want to be in more familiar territory. For some of us, it's just like we just don't want to step out of our comfort zone because it's exhausting trying to step out and trying to keep things at bay so we don't have to expose our true vulnerabilities. Sometimes we feel like we're on overwhelm. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way these days. There's so much going on in our world. When we're faced with too many tasks or responsibilities, we could become resistant, and we are resistant to the change or whatever because it's a coping mechanism to avoid being, you know, overwhelmed. And, you know, the other thing too is the self-doubt kind of creeps up. When our self-doubt comes up, it's the negative beliefs that we have about ourselves that could also lead to resistance. It's like we're keeping ourselves small and playing small, and in the name of being safe. So, you know, these are things to consider about resistance. So some of the interesting things about when you're thinking more of a resistant type things, or, you know, intellectual or cognitive type stuff, Anybody out there like an all or nothing type of person? You view things in black and white, and you don't see the shades of gray in between. That has a tendency to really make you feel as if, it's like the right or wrong, black and white, good or bad. It's the dichotomy. It's about learning how to embrace the shades of gray in between the black and white, because we live in a world that it's not black and white. There are many, many shades of gray there, and there's many possibilities. And when you are so focused on your resistance, you don't see the bigger picture. You're just seeing what's in front of you. And there is so many possibilities out there that once you're able to expand your awareness and step out of your resistance, you're going to see there's going to be solutions, possibilities, which is just, and once you start seeing that, you're going to want more and more of that. Some of the other things that are happening, and we see this now in our world because of, the wars and the weather, catastrophic thinking. It's like exaggerating negative consequences of change, and that could lead to resistance too. So it's almost like when we think the absolute worst things are going to happen, it's almost like we get paralysis and we just don't want to move. It's almost like, fight or flight or freeze. Sometimes it's just freeze. And that's more of a dysregulation of our nervous system as well. And of course, the one that's really, it's home to me is sometimes avoidance. Resistance can be a way of avoiding, when you have avoidance, you avoid the uncomfortable thoughts or the feelings. I wouldn't say it's denial, but it's about, if I ignore it, it'll go away. I thank my mom for that, because she drove that home to us growing up. It was just like, just pretend it's not there. Well, it's there, unfortunately. So when we are talking about resistance, it kind of came to mind for me about boundaries too, because I think this is something that we need to talk about a little bit. And we talked a little bit about defiance and resistance, because I find that when I see defiance, I see that toddler just stomping his feet, having like a temper tantrum. And defiance is more of a, I don't know, it's like a direct and active opposition, whereas resistance can be more indirect and passive. And I'm just reading that from my notes, because I think that one is more reactive and more, extreme versus, of course, defiance would be more extreme than resistance, because it's of the subtlety and the passiveness of the resistance type thing. Defiance may be often accompanied by hostility and anger. And sometimes it's to disregard or oppose a rule, request, or authority. Maybe it's like, could be acts of protest and stuff like that. Where resistance is more of, it's rooted in fear, discomfort, and lack of motivation. Going back to like the balancing act between resistance and personal boundaries, I kind of feel both of them are interconnected, because, we're relationship type beings, and a lot of times boundaries need to be set. And if you don't set boundaries, people have a tendency to not honor them, and they'll walk all over you and stuff like that. So I believe that both resistance and personal boundaries are two interconnected concepts that are just necessary. And resistance can manifest as pushback, avoidance, or even outright defiance, which we talked about. when faced with a boundary or request. So when you are in resistance, ask yourself what's kind of going on. Are you fearing rejection or abandonment? Does it have anything to do with your self-worth, or maybe your patterns of what you do for you? And maybe you have some misunderstanding of what boundaries are. So we're getting ready to go on our next break right now. And you're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network. And I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we're talking about decoding resistance today on the Dr. Dolores Show. So stay tuned and we'll talk more after the break.
Do you trust your instincts? Many of us don't. Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to another episode on the Dr. Dolores Show. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we've been talking about decoding resistance today. And, over the last couple segments, we talked about what resistance is and is not, but also things that we could do to assist ourselves so we could become more fluid and less resistant and be more aware of when we are being resistant or even defiant. Right before we went on our break, we were talking about here's what I found. Boundaries. Boundaries are just really important. And sometimes when our boundaries are being rattled or not respected, sometimes we get really resistant and we start getting sometimes defiant as well. So it's something to be aware of, that sometimes looking at those things, that's a real important factor. So when that happens, just understand that maybe there's a fear of rejection or abandonment, lack of self-worth, habitual patterns, or misunderstanding of what boundaries are. And establishing a boundary is a necessary foundational piece for self-care. And when your boundaries aren't respected, sometimes we go into resistance because we aren't feeling safe. So look at that as well, because being able to express your needs without going into, I'm going to call it retaliative resistance or defiance, is also important as well, and knowing when to step away as well too. So I would like to invite you guys on a journey. I got a little meditation kind of tucked away here that I'd like to bring up so you could actually get an experience of, what it might feel like to release some resistance in yourself, your body, mind, and soul. So I'm going to invite you to, just find a comfortable place. And you could either, lie down or sit down in a nice quiet place. And I invite you to gently close your eyes. And I'm just going to invite you to inhale slowly through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any tension. And we're going to do that a few more times. Just exhale slowly from your mouth, releasing any tension, and inhale slowly through your nose. And allow your body to fill up, and just exhale slowly. One more time, inhaling and exhaling. And notice the sensation of your breath as it enters and exits your body. Let your mind be still, observing your breath without judgment. Now imagine a ball of resistance. And just picture this ball in your chest, holding on to any negative emotions or beliefs that are preventing you from moving forward. Now visualize the ball dissolving. Imagine a warm, golden light surrounding the ball, gradually melting it away. As the ball dissolves, release any tension or resistance you feel. Feel a sense of lightness. Notice how your body feels as the resistance fades. Allow yourself to feel lighter and more open. Repeat this mantra silently to yourself. I release resistance and embrace change. I release resistance and embrace change. I release resistance and embrace change. Now take a few more deep breaths. As you breathe, allow yourself to fully experience the sense of peace and calm that is washed over you. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Take a few moments to integrate the feelings of release and openness you've experienced. Well, welcome back, everybody. What did you notice with that meditation? Did you notice the resistance in your body and where it was? Sometimes our body has the somatic response to resistance, and it shows up as pain or aches or sensations. They're all good. They're all there to allow us to visit and maybe even work on something that we're stuck with, you know? So sometimes when we have like a physical pain in our body, there might be some resistance that we're working through. And when you're able to look at things and experience things from that perspective with the curiosity of a child, and pondering, well, why is that so? You're able to go a little deeper within yourself. So you may experience, muscle tension or tightness or even a pain. It's often a response to stress, energy, or emotional discomfort. Also, maybe you're fatigued or you're tired or you have anxiety or maybe digestive issues. There might be something underneath that's driving that. It's something to ponder and something to explore. I think in our world of modern medicine, I feel that many people want an automatic pill or an automatic solution for what's going on. And I think that when we medicate ourselves or don't look deeper, we give ourselves a huge disservice, because it's almost like putting a Band-Aid on a wound and then ripping the Band-Aid off, and it takes the scab of the wound off. It's not really addressing the deeper issue. So when we're able to go deep within ourselves and ask, why is my knee hurting so much? What is going on there? And just sit with what's coming up and allow ourselves just to experience whatever that is. If it's an emotion, if it's a sensation, if it's a thought, just look at that, because it's the unconsciousness that's coming into consciousness. So we're able to do something with that and move forward. So I know I gave you quite a bit to think about in this episode, but we're going to get ready to go on our next break. And when we come back, we'll just wrap it up and I'll share what's going on with me and what my new program is. And we'll just see how it goes. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the other side.
Your
Listening
instincts?
to the Dr.
Many of us
Dolores
don't.
Show.
Yet this is the key to connecting to your innate healer within and your intuition. Tune in to the Dr. Dolores Show with nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, to receive insights and tools to realign with your inner wisdom for lasting health and true wellness. Listen for the Dr. Dolores Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Ready to break free from complacency? Welcome to I'm Awake, Now What? Your monthly invitation to embrace conscious living. If you've been feeling lost or stagnant, this is your chance to awaken your purpose. Join our transformative conscious wake-up office hours every month for guidance and self-discovery. Experience the power of clarity and focus as you navigate towards holistic healing and empowerment. Don't just survive, thrive. Sign up now and unlock a wealth of benefits, including enhanced well-being, stress reduction, emotional healing, and connection. It's time to ignite the flames of purpose within and start your journey to a fulfilling life.
This is the Dr. Dolores Show with Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Dolores at drdoloresfazzino.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network, and I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we've been talking about decoding resistance today on the Dr. Dolores Show. And we talked a little bit about all the things that possibly could be contributing to your resistance, but also how it shows up in your body as well. But before I continue on, I just want to do a little informational break here. You probably heard in the advertisements in between the episodes about I'm Awake, Now What? And I want to talk a little bit more about that, because that is a community that I put together with a colleague of mine, Cozy Stankantis, who's a bodywork practitioner and a Reiki practitioner as well. And with my combination with the energy healing and medical intuitiveness, we're offering a program that's helping people on their journey, especially if they have just awakened and are on their spiritual journey. Because for many of us, things have happened in our world and maybe life has been working really well, and then all of a sudden it's not. And you're realizing that there needs to be more in your life than you know, but you just don't know what that is. So this is a program and a membership community for you. We offer support, tools, resources, healing, and monthly Zoom chats on different topics that are going to allow you to expand your knowledge and to gain the wisdom that you're going to need for your journey. So I invite you to sign up for that. It's going to be launching in November, and we really look forward to having you. And you could go to my website, drdoloresfazzino.com, and you'll see I'm Awake, Now What? And just click on that for more information. So I want to also talk more about the resistance and decoding resistance. That was our topic of discussion today. And I feel the most important things that I could share with you from this episode is that resistance is very common. We all go through it. We all experience it. But it's an essential part of our personal growth and development. It's normal. We need to understand the causes, and when we identify our causes of resistance, we can better deal with what we're going through and allow ourselves the grace and the self-compassion that is necessary. And of course, practicing self-compassion, we need to be kind to ourselves as we navigate resistance. And, you know, everybody experiences. You're not the Lone Ranger here. Everybody experiences resistance in some way, shape, or form. It's about embracing the unknown. We're in a lot of uncertainty right now, a lot of unknown, a lot of uncharted territory, so to say, and it could be really scary. And, you know, sometimes we are so scared that we just immobilize ourselves. So just look at embracing the unknown as an opportunity for growth. When you're able to still be teachable and learn things, you're just gaining wisdom, and that's going to actually help with traction for your life and to also allow you to be more certain within yourself as well. And celebrate your progress. It's not about being perfect. It's about allowing ourselves the grace that it's not an all or nothing or black and white. There's shades of gray. And remember, the shades of gray are a lot of times where we're going to get our gold nuggets. So embrace resistance. View it as a teacher. Remember that it could show you where there's some growth opportunity for you within yourself, looking at maybe your underlying fears or beliefs or patterns that are trying to move from unconsciousness into consciousness so they could be dealt with and so you can move on and set yourself free. Remember, practice self-compassion and just know that we're on this path together. You're not alone. We're all experiencing mega changes. And when you're brave enough to go deep within yourself into the caves of our consciousness, you're going to find some treasures that have been hidden for so long that when you're able to embrace what is going on, those treasures are going to be with you forever and for the rest of your life and wherever you go beyond this lifetime. So know that you're not alone. You're on a journey. You're here on planet Earth, learning how to be human. In fact, you're getting a dissertation on being human. You're going to get your PhD by the time you graduate and move on to your next adventure. Being here is not for sissies. And it's how you look at things and how you move forward on your life. Remember, it's not a destination, it's a journey. So I want to leave you with this thought. Resistance is a natural part of the journey. It's not a sign of weakness, but rather an opportunity to grow. So stay tuned next week because we're going to have another episode, and I don't really know what I'm going to be talking about next week. So it'll be a mystery to everybody. And just remember to be kind to yourself. You matter in this world. And if you haven't heard this lately, I love you. The universe loves you. And to keep moving forward because you are worth it. So, signing off, you're listening to the Dr. Dolores Show on Inspired Choices Network. I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And sign up for our program, I'm Awake Now What? We'd love to have you. And I'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Dolores Show. Dr. Dolores returns Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Pacific. on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, remember to be kind to yourself and create your best life. You are worth it.